Hello, my name is Blossums and welcome to another Genshin Impact video. And today we're going to be going over another build guide here, and we're doing an updated Zhongli build, as Zhongli is just about to get his second rerun here in Genshin Impact 2.4, so a lot of people are going to be getting him for the first time. So I wanted to go ahead and make an updated build guide, just show everybody what they may or may not want to use on Zhongli, go over some different options for builds and weapons that you might want to consider. We're also going to be talking about different team pairings and just how he works in general. So we got a bit to cover, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the build. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about how his kit works and just go over that briefly. It's pretty well-known kit, so we're not going to spend too much time here, but basically it's this E skill, and you can press it and summon a pillar, or you can hold it and you can summon a pillar, and also generate yourself a shield, and also take out any geo-elemented stuff nearby you. So like example, basically a hill turtle shield. If it's a geo hill turtle shield, you can just take it out entirely for the most part, and you can do that up to 2 different targets. So if there's 3, it won't work that way. And this is all based off of his maxed HP for the shield, is how the shield is going to generate, and it's a very strong shield. You also deal a little bit of AoE geo damage, and the shield that you get is not only a geo shield that's very strong, it also decreases the elemental and physical resistance of opponents in a small AoE by 20%, and that effect can't be stacked, but basically this thing does everything. And the pillar you summon, by the way, it intermittently pulsates to deal some damage. It's not much damage, but it is damage, and as you can tell, these things definitely have some different cooldowns. So just the press is 4 seconds, the cooldown of the hold is 12 seconds, and the shield here is extremely strong. The shield by itself is pretty okay, but then you get an additional shield absorption by nearly 20% of your HP, and if you do have it at level 8, then it is 20% of your HP. So leveling this up is going to be extremely important, and I've just been lacking on leveling mine up, but it's still an incredibly strong shield. And not to mention, you decrease the resonance of, or the resistance of everything by 20%, which is insane. So yeah, this is the main focal point of his kit, is providing an insane shield. And then also we have his elemental burst here. Basically, you cast it, deals big geo damage and an AoE, but it also petrifies opponents, which basically just pauses an opponent and pretty much all opponents, and they can't move for a few seconds. And this actually does increase with the talent's level. So the more you increase the level of this talent, the longer the petrification duration will be, and it's like up to like 4 seconds, I believe, once you get past this level 8 here. I'm not entirely sure, but it's not going to be extremely long or anything. It's going to be like 3 to 5 seconds maybe at max. And the skill damage here, as you can see, is very high, and this also scales off of your HP with one of its passives. Actually, everything scales off of his max HP with one of his passives. His normal charge and plunging attack, his stone steel damage from the E skill that we talked about earlier, and the elemental burst will all scale off of that. Not to mention, he has another passive here that increases your shield strength based off of whenever your shield takes damage. So not only is this shield already incredibly strong just from your max HP, but it's going to be incredibly strong from this passive as well. So he's an extremely strong shielder. His elemental burst does good damage, and it stops opponents in their tracks and keeps them from running away or moving around a lot, which is extremely valuable nowadays, considering we have a lot of opponents that seem to like to move around a little bit too much. Moving onwards from the talents here, we're going to talk about artifacts, and there's a few ways to build your Zhongli, and the way I build my Zhongli is mostly focused around, supporting that shield while also being able to deal some solid damage. And the way we're doing that is that we're going to have the 4-piece Tenacity of the Millith, and this is basically a tailor-made set for Zhongli where it increases HP by 20%, but then not only that, but when your elemental skill hits an opponent, the attack of all nearby party members is increased by 20%, and their shield strength is increased by 30% for 3 seconds. And basically, if you put one of his pillars down via pressing or holding his E skill, and it's able to hit an opponent, it is going to increase your attack by 20% and increase your shield strength by 30%, and it's going to intermittently deal that damage and be able to keep that buff indefinitely as long as it's still hitting an opponent, which is incredibly strong. And it can be triggered off the field, which is amazing. So you can just cast your shield and then forget, and as long as the pillar is hitting, you're going to be getting that bonus. And the way we support this, there are 2 ways. If you want your Zhongli to be dealing some solid damage along with having a strong shield, you're going to want to have an HP main stat, a geo damage bonus, and then a crit rate or crit damage circlet, whatever's going to give you the best ratio there. And then the substats you'll be looking for, of course, going to be as much crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent as you can find. Of course, HP percent is going to be incredibly helpful as well, and that is if you're trying to deal some solid damage alongside having a pretty strong shield. Now, if you just want to use him as a shield bot and you want that shield to be as strong as possible, just go HP in every main stat and you will be totally fine. Your shield will be insanely strong and it's going to be really hard to break, honestly. So that's just one way to do it, but I personally like Zhongli to be able to dish out some solid damage as well while still having that very strong shield. So yeah, as I said, if you want to be dealing some of that solid damage, you are going to need a bunch of crit rate and crit damage and as much HP percent as you can find. Other substats of energy recharge and attack percent are going to be nice if you can fit them in there because of course energy recharge is going to help you get that burst back, but it's a low cost of 40, so you don't really need that much. And then attack percent is going to be helping out just a little bit if you're trying to dish out some damage, just because we're not running any attack percentage here, so a little bit's going to go a long way on Zhongli and allowing him to dish out a little bit of extra damage. If you don't want to run the tenacity of the Millith, by the way, of course you can split it up with some other artifacts. A 2-piece tenacity and a 2-piece archaic petra are fine if you're trying to deal some damage. You could also run something like a 4-piece noblesse oblige if you really want to, especially since the fact that his elemental burst does have the cooldown of 12 seconds, so you can keep it up indefinitely as long as you're getting it off of cooldown there. So that is an option if you want, but realistically I don't think that's good compared to the tenacity of the Millith because you're getting the same buff from the 4-piece and you're only increasing your elemental burst damage by 20% and you're really you know, losing a lot of the shield resistance there, the how strong the shield could be. So I don't think the 4-piece noblesse oblige is really worth it if you really are just hurting for artifacts and you just don't have good tenacity pieces. Of course, you could do like 2-piece archaic petra, 2-piece noblesse oblige. That's what was ran for a while before we actually got this set. But realistically, any combination of the tenacity of Millith and other sets are going to be better. And then, of course, the 4-piece tenacity of Millith, in my opinion, is the best. And that is mostly because the 4-piece tenacity of the Millith allows you to build him to deal big damage, to have a strong shield, or be somewhere in between. It allows you to kind of explore each and every one of those avenues, which is why it's my favorite, because it's the most versatile. Depending on how you want to build your Zhongli, you can take them a few different routes, and this will pretty much net you the best results, in my opinion. Unless, of course, you're going for like a main DPS Zhongli, then you're probably going to want to go for something like a 4-piece Gladiator's Finale. And although I haven't tried that myself, I am pretty interested in trying out a main DPS Zhongli where we mostly focus on his normal attacks. So if that's something you'd be interested in seeing as well, let me know in the comment section below. But in this video, we're not really going to be going over that at all. Anyway, before we move on to the weapons here, I'm going to go over each and every one of my artifacts I'll be using for this video so you know exactly what we're using in the showcase. Alright, you'll be happy to know that weapons for Zhongli can be incredibly cheap because one of the better weapons for Zhongli is, well, Black Tassel. And Black Tassel is a 3-star weapon, and the reason it's so good is because it increases your HP by so much. A 42% substat of 8 on your HP here for a level 80 Black Tassel is really nice, and not to mention 3 stars take less materials to level up, so it's extremely easy to level up. Of course, you're missing on that base attack, but as it's not really that big of a deal because a lot of your damage is going to be coming from your HP. If you really want to focus in on some damage for your Zhongli, of course, a lot of other 5-star polearms are going to be fantastic for him. Staff of Homa, most notably, is one of the better ones on him, but you should probably be using Homa on some other main DPSs rather than Zhongli, but that is one of the better options on him. Blackcliff polearm here is also going to be fantastic if you're trying to dish out some damage, but if you want your shield to be strong, then Black Tassel is going to be here. And I'm going to let you know now, the HP is actually a huge contributor to his damage, and the difference between Black Tassel here and a Blackcliff polearm isn't really as big as you'd think. The Blackcliff definitely deals some more damage, but the Black Tassel isn't as far behind as you'd probably think it is, and we can actually show that in the showcase as well. I'll make sure to, just so you guys have an idea of what that's like. But yeah, Black Tassel is going to be a fantastic option. Of course, if you need some energy generation for your team and you want his elemental burst off of cooldown, then Favonius Lance is going to be a phenomenal option, being able to generate some of that energy for you, as well as giving him some energy recharge. Now, I will say, I'm sure you've heard this before, but Zhongli's elemental burst does take some time, and if you're really trying to optimize your gameplay, his elemental burst is generally a net loss to your DPS, but for the most part, that isn't a big deal for most of us. So if you value the petrification aspect of his elemental burst and you like to dish out a little bit of damage, then Favonius Lance is still a solid option for you, and spamming that burst is still a solid option for you. But I did want to note that, of course, if you are running a main DPS Zhongli, Crescent Pike is going to be a good option for those normal attacks, and then of course things like Deathmatch to help your crit rate and crit damage, and also the catch is good. If you want to deal that big elemental burst damage, the catch is not only going to give you tons of energy recharge, tons of elemental burst damage, and a bit of crit rate, so it's all nice and wrapped up there. But I do think there are better characters to use the catch on there. And if you are just trying to make the strongest shield Zhongli, which I would recommend, while still dealing some solid damage, then the Black Tassel is probably going to be the best option for you, unless you have a cracked 5-star for him, like the Staff of Homa that also increases your HP. But for the most part, Black Tassel is just fine and does an excellent job. Not to mention, if you're fighting slimes in the Spiral Abyss, he annihilates them with this on, and it's kind of hilarious because of the passive here. And it's a lot better than you'd think, and it's very fun. And every now and then there are slimes in the Spiral Abyss, so I love having Zhongli on that team when there are slimes in the Spiral Abyss, like there are now on the current floor 11. Before we get into some pairings for Zhongli, I'll briefly go over my stats on him. I only have 900 attack, 700 defense, 37 elemental mastery, 34,000 max HP, and then we have a crit rate of 57 and a crit damage of 120-ish. And energy recharge of 140, which is plenty. As I said, it's a 40 cost, so it's not that big a deal. And then 68.2% on the geo damage bonus. If any of you are looking at that attack stat and are a little worried, I'm just gonna let you know it's really not that big a deal. You gotta remember he has no attack percent really on him unless it's from substats, and he has a 3-star weapon on, and when he has his 4-piece set going on the artifacts, that gives him an additional 20%, which puts him in the 1100 range. And if you have him on a 4-star weapon here, like the Black Cliff Polearm, that's going to bring him to about 1200, but it is gonna decrease your max HP by around 6,000-ish right there, which is kind of a bigger deal for your shield there. So of course you're just gonna have to balance that out however you like. As for pairing with Zhongli, you'll be happy to know he pretty much fits everywhere, mostly because of the fact that we mentioned that he decreases all resistances to enemies, so anybody who wants a shielder on their team can fit Zhongli in there. And also, since he's a geo element, he's neutral there, so he's not really going to be a problem to the team at all. So if you want a shielder, Zhongli can fit in there and allow you to dish out some additional damage, which is the fantastic part. But of course, he does have some other pairings that are, things you might want to note. Other Geo characters, of course, are going to be fantastic for him because the Geo Resonance is so good. It's going to be increasing your shield strength further on an already incredibly strong shield, and allowing you to dish out some more damage and decrease some Geo Resonance even further than you were already. So double Geo with Zhongli is even stronger than it already was. So he's a fantastic unit to have there. Of course, if you're running like a DPS Zhongli, then Yunjin's going to be an amazing pairing for him, not only getting that resonance, but increasing that normal attack damage. He also pairs extremely well with Zhao. Zhao loves Zhongli because you're just going to be getting that 20% shred there, and you're going to have that shield protecting Zhao while he's in his elemental burst, while he's losing that HP is really strong. These two are a really common pairing that you'll see in a lot of floor 12 Spiral Abyss clears, so he's a fantastic pairing with Zhao. And then of course characters like Arataki Ito like him just for the res shred, even characters like Gon Yu like him for the res shred. As I said, you can pretty much fit him anywhere. And honestly, this team comp portion, we're just going to cut short because of the fact that he can pair with everybody. This is a pretty fun team that I've seen a couple of times. Some people swap out Zhongli for another Geo character here. You can even do something like the team I typically run on Hu Tao, which is this. There's like a Xingqiu, Hu Tao, Albedo, and Zhongli, because then you get the Geo Resonance, and you get to pop off with Hu Tao without worrying about her dying because you have an extremely strong shield. All right, and as I said, we're going to be testing out both weapons. We're going to be starting off with the Black Tassel here, and just to show you the stats and how they are, and then we'll show the difference between the two. Go ahead and briefly go over those. And we'll We'll show you guys the damage difference between the two, just so you guys have an idea of how much damage you're losing whenever you are using something like the Black Cliff. See 36k there on the Elemental Burst. Now let's go ahead and try out the Black Cliff and show the difference. All right, and now we're going to test out the Black Cliff polearm, and as you can see, we're at 1200 attack now with about 60 more crit damage or so. And you're going to be surprised that the difference here isn't as big as you might think. So let's go ahead and show that off, and we'll go ahead and get that going. You see we did about 46k there, which is about 10k more, which is big, but in the grand scheme of having a stronger shield and about 60% more crit damage, it's really not that big of a deal. But yeah, there you have it. There's our Zhongli build and the differences between using something like the Black Cliff and having the Black Tassel. And you saw the differences were there, but they're not exactly all that insane. And honestly, your Elemental Burst, as I said, if you're trying to be the most optimal on your team, is going to take a little while and just not going to be the best option for your DPS. So really dealing damage with this is Elemental Burst isn't that big of a deal, but of course you can make it deal a ton of damage if you really focus on it. And if you like to do that, then go ahead, that's totally viable, but I personally prefer the stronger shield to support my other units a little bit better. But anyway, I hope I guys helped you build your Zhongli, give you guys some advice on your Zhongli. Let me know how you're building yours in the comments section below, and if you would like to see a main DPS Zhongli or even a delete key Zhongli, where we try to make that Elemental Burst deal as much damage as we can. But anyway, that's gonna be it for me, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. My name's Blossums, and I'll catch you later. Peace.